Let me thank you for the invitation to come visit tonight. I don't plan on speaking very long. I came primarily to listen. Many of you I have talked with individually, but it's my opinion that some of my colleagues in Baton Rouge who are making the decisions that will impact all of us have not listened to you. They've not heard you. They've not listened to your objections. They've not listened to your suggestions. They've not listened to your criticisms. They've not listened to your desires. They've not listened to you at all. At the same time, with respect to some of you, taking your property. And that's wrong. And that's why when Sandra asked me to do this tonight, I gladly and thankfully accepted. Let me tell you where I think we are. Now, this is from my point of view. I don't speak for the governor. I don't speak for the new hospital board. I don't speak for anybody but me. The state of Louisiana, through state money and federal money, both generated from taxpayers, has between $800 and $900 million cash sitting in a bank for a new hospital. Today, 6 years after Katrina, we don't have one. And state government should be embarrassed, particularly given the health care needs in New Orleans. There are a number of reasons for that, but I will tell you, in my opinion, the main reason. We have only been allowed to discuss one plan, and one plan only. It was a plan and is a plan developed by the Health Sciences Center at LSU, primarily by Dr. Fred Cerise, who is a friend of mine and is a very good person. But the HSC plan, as I will call it, has several drawbacks. It would require the state to borrow $400 million to supplement the $900 million that we have to build a 424-bed hospital. There's just one problem with that. The state, spending this kind of taxpayer money, understandably hired not one but two internationally known healthcare consultants. One by the name of Verité, and the other group is called Kaufman Hall. Both Verité and Kaufman Hall came back and said, if you build it under the HSC plan, it will go broke. Kaufman Hall in particular, and I would encourage you to read their report, took an exhaustive look at the healthcare market in New Orleans, in the New Orleans metropolitan area, New Orleans, Jefferson, St. Bernard. It made the point that the national average for the number of hospital beds in America today is 2.7 beds per 1,000 people. Right now in the New Orleans metropolitan area today, we have 2.8 beds per 1,000 people. Kaufman Hall said if you build the new hospital, and if you build a new hospital in Chalmette, which we're doing as we speak, we will have over 3 beds per 1,000 people, and that's not even counting the new hospital in New Orleans East. That means that the market will be saturated, and likely the new kid on the block, the new hospital proposed by HSC, will go broke and will not cash flow. Now, Governor Jindal called me, and again, I don't speak for the governor. I can just share with you my observations. He called a meeting. It's been about a month now, I guess. It was the last week of the legislative session. He called a meeting in his office. It was right after a proposal that Senator David Vitter, Speaker Jim Tucker, and I put on the table that I'll talk about in a second. He said, attending this meeting were Speaker Tucker, myself, Senator Vitter, several gubernatorial aides, Mayor Landrieu, and 4 members of the hospital board. And the governor did not mince words. He said, I am not happy that we don't have a business plan for this hospital 6 years after the storm. He said, we need a business plan. We don't have one. He turned to his hospital board and said, I want you to develop a business plan. I want you to do it like yesterday, and you can consider any alternative you want to consider. Now, part of the reason for this meeting, and I'll talk about this later on, but was a proposal that Senator Vitter, Speaker, and Tucker and I put on the table. I'm not saying it's the only alternative we ought to consider, but it ought to be considered, along with any ideas you have and any ideas that anybody else has. Under the proposal we put on the table, the state would take the $900 million that we have. We wouldn't borrow a dime. We would build a new 200 to 250 bed hospital. You can do it in the shell of the old Charity, if that proves feasible. Or you could do it in a separate new building. The state would also purchase from HCA the Tulane Hospital. The Tulane Hospital downtown has about 225 beds. Its lakeside facility has 119 beds. So how would we end up with this proposal? We would end up with 42% more beds, but not new beds. Not net new beds. That's important because we wouldn't be adding beds to the market. The Tulane beds already exist. We would have 42% more beds at a savings of $400 million. It would be bigger, it would be cheaper, and we could have it done in 2-3 years at the maximum. Now, that's not the only alternative that ought to be considered. Let me say it again. The problem with this whole thing has been the inability of any of us to discuss anything but one single solitary plan. You can't talk about anything else. And that hospital board's hands have been tied. Now they can consider other proposals. And I am optimistic. Sandra said it best. We need a hospital in New Orleans. We can have a world-class teaching hospital in New Orleans, but we have to be smart about it. And we have to do it together. And that starts with listening to other people. And that's why I'm here tonight. And I'll be glad to try to answer questions. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you. But I will try to answer as honestly and as forthrightly as I can. And thank you again for having me.